Senator Cruz and I came up with a plan. It would have worked. We could have had TSA paid by the end of the week.
GOP Senator John Kennedy admitted earlier this week that Donald Trump killed a plan to end the DHS shutdown and restore funding to TSA, all because he refuses to work with the Democrats. So let's hear a little bit more from Senator Kennedy before we go on.
Senator Cruz and I came up with a plan. We said, look, it's a two-step process. The Democrats have offered to open up everything but ICE. Ted and I said, okay, let's accept their offer. And then at the same time, we would offer a bill for reconciliation where we don't need any Democratic votes to do whatever we wanted to do with ICE. And that way we're out of the shutdown and DHS is back open. We submitted that, Senator Cthulhu submitted that to President Trump, as is his right. He said no deals with the Democrats. It would have worked. We could have had TSA paid by the end of the week, but the president said no deal.
All right, so make no mistake, this deal still is favored by the Republicans, especially if ICE funding was passed until a reconciliation bill was passed, which, as Kennedy said, would not require Democratic votes. So Democrats wouldn't get some of their chief demands, such as banning masks for federal agents or requiring judicial warrants if reconciliation were used. Plus, TSA agents would get their paychecks and the security line madness at airports would end, or so they say. But Trump said no to all of the above. The president wants Republicans to stay in DC and keep fighting with Democrats over DHS funding and the Save America Act, the GOP's voter ID and proof of citizenship bill. Not only that, Trump warned that he would publicly slam Senate Republicans if they left town for the upcoming recess. So this isn't really about ICE or TSA. Trump's main focus is his voter ID bill. According to Reuters, Trump told Republicans at a roundtable event in Memphis earlier this week that the voting bill should be included in any agreement to fund DHS. He said, I'm requesting that the Republican senators do that immediately. You don't have to take a fast vote. Don't worry about Easter or going home. In fact, make this one for Jesus. So he's saying, don't worry about going home for Easter. Spend Easter here with me in Washington, D.C. and do your job for Jesus instead of for the American people, which I guess is good. So Punchbowl added, Trump also said he would invite all the GOP senators and their families for Easter dinner at the White House. Some Republicans took that as a threat, not as a reward, which is really funny. If Trump really cared about what Jesus thinks, though, then maybe he would make a deal instead of being so selfish, but he doesn't know how to do that. This is prosperity doctrine. He is the chosen one. So whatever he wants to happen is what needs to happen, including making the senators work over Easter break. And honestly, I don't feel that badly for them because just do your jobs and then you wouldn't be here in the first place. But the 2-week Easter recess is set to start at the end of this week. So we'll see if they get to go home. Meanwhile, there are 61,000 TSA workers who have gone without pay for 5 weeks because of all of this, with many agents allegedly still digging themselves out of the hole caused by the last shutdown. So they said, we're drowning in debt, and now you ask us to do it again. This is so un-American. We are living paycheck to paycheck already as some of the worst paid federal employees. We're nobodies with the biggest responsibility. Unfortunately, that does sound very American, as America is today. And that is according to Angela Grana. She's a Colorado-based TSA agent who is also the regional vice president of the union, representing TSA workers at 38 airports across the Rockies. And unfortunately, the hardships don't end there, according to Grana, telling USA Today that some employees had been sleeping in their cars at airports because they can't afford the gas to commute. But increasingly, they're just sleeping inside terminals to keep cool. She said it's insulting to TSA workers to watch ICE officers who are getting paid and paid better deployed at airports without actually contributing anything. Yeah, we've all seen the video footage of ICE agents just standing around at airports, not actually helping with anything. They're not checking IDs, they're not helping with crowd control. They're ill-equipped to do anything. And so they're not doing anything, but they are getting paid. And from what we've seen, they're getting paid a very handsome, healthy 6-figure salary. So it goes without saying that Trump could have ended all of this. So his fellow Americans don't actually have to suffer to survive. We shouldn't have paid workers who are working having to sleep in their cars. I'm sorry, workers who should be paid, not getting paid, and then having to sleep in their cars just to continue to do their jobs. But Donald Trump is too proud of a man, and he is always focused on the wrong issues. Was they have told us that they are not concerned right now about the American people. They're not concerned about our affordability crisis. They're not concerned about the fact that people can't afford groceries, or like we heard in this story, they can't afford gas. So things are pretty dire, and I can't imagine that this is endearing Trump to anyone.
Yeah, nobody's surprised by any of this. And, if you see what the TSA officers are doing, is the reason why they're standing around is because they're not trained for this. They're not trained to do the actual jobs that TSA workers do. And, the reason why Trump is so stuck on this voter ID, basically voter suppression, and mail-in ballot stuff that he's so stuck on is because he thinks it's gonna actually help Republicans in the midterm. I think he kind of understands that his presidency is pretty much DOA. It's kind of cooked. He expended all his political capital on a ridiculous tax cut for the richest people ever. Also on horrible tariffs. And now he's plunged the country into war. And so he's done. His approval ratings are, below sea level by 1 million miles. And I think he sees the voter suppression and thereby stemming the tide in the midterms as his last ditch effort to sort of rescue his presidency. But we all know that's not gonna work. The Republicans are going to take a bloodbath in the midterms. Like we see it with the special elections, like all the indications are there. The only thing that I will say that people should be slightly heartened by, if not, even if it's for some of the wrong reasons, while TSA workers are people with absolutely no political capital and no political influence, people who travel a lot are. The business community, wealthier Americans who spend a lot of time at airports, who aren't going to be stand by idly as we continue to see these horrible wait times in TSA lines. That message is gonna actually get through to the White House. And I think because those people are politically powerful, people who travel a lot, I think we're gonna see something get done on this end, even as we see Trump with his bluster publicly.
Yeah, we did hear news that Delta Airlines is withholding the perks that apparently our Congress people were getting all along. And they're saying you don't get perks until you end the shutdown, until you end all of the madness at the airports. I've seen footage from these airports, and this is primarily happening at international airports around the country. So Chicago O'Hare, JFK in New York, IAH Bush Airport here in Houston, and others. And it's been complete madness. And you have the ICE agents there. And then on top of that, at all the other airports across the country, you have TSA agents who are not getting paid. So they're quitting their jobs because they can't afford to go to work and not get paid. Who can do that in this economy and in the way that society has been designed and built for us, But you're absolutely right that there is some kind of economy happening within the airports, especially among flyers. Wealthier people tend to fly more often than others, and they're gonna have some things to say. This can't go on for too much longer. But the thing is, they're putting these ICE agents in the airports. They know that the ICE agents can't actually do anything because they're not told what to do even. There's nobody coordinating this effort. So they're not actually expecting them to be helpful. They're being put there as just like a reminder that this is Trump's America. They're very much his own private military force that he deploys wherever he wants to, as we can see here. They're supposedly supposed to be like picking up illegal immigrants at these international airports, which sounds like it would be very, very confusing for a lot of the international travelers who are not trying to just stay in this country. It's all a big, big mess.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.